Hello friends, welcome back to Embrace the Question. I am so late getting this video out. I'm late in everything in my life right now. It's just a season for me, and I really have been anxious to get this video out. We're in Exodus chapter 27 in our Bible Study with Me series, and moving right along in Exodus. We're almost out of the parts that I would consider the driest, I think, which are the description of the tabernacle, furnishings, that type of thing. But there are some really interesting characteristics about these chapters that we can talk about. One is, and you probably need to keep these in mind going forward, the metals that are used. Okay, in the Bible, we see metals like gold, silver, bronze, and sometimes iron. It helps to know what each of these mean. Like gold is a representation of righteousness, a representation of purity, a representation of perfection. Silver, almost always redemption. Okay, silver, redemption. Bronze, judgment. Think judgment. Can also mean strength, but think something like Jesus's feet were as of bronze, meaning he's walked the fires of judgment. Lastly, iron, strength, authority. You see that in Daniel, in the statue. We see most all of these in the statue, Daniel's statue, Nebuchadnezzar's statue. But we're going to see it in the temple furnishings. And so when we see a certain item made of a certain metal, then we can associate that item with its corresponding trait. Kind of interesting, right? The other thing I would point out is that you see a lot of things that are made in one piece. And I think that's significant because a lot of these things are impossibly intricate. Like the leaves that are on the menorah branches, one piece. Especially if you look at the way we do things today. Like if you go down to a forge that sells high-end metal furnishings, steel stuff, wrought iron stuff, you'll notice that very little of it is in one piece, right? We'll get the frame built out in steel, and then we'll weld on the pieces, especially the intricate pieces, the fancy stuff. We weld those on or solder joints, things like that. To have someone, that's capable of creating this kind of furnishings and designs in one piece with metals that are not necessarily easy to work with, that's impressive. But it also struck me that sometimes these things represent us. In one way, form, or fashion, it represents us. And God made you in one piece. He didn't create you as a base you and then start welding on pieces to make you beautiful. You were wonderfully and fearfully made in one piece. I find that really fascinating to think about because not all of us think of ourselves as beautiful, fearfully, wonderfully made. Am I right? But we are. Some of those pieces aren't always obvious to us. We have to have those things revealed to us. So keep all of this in mind as we go through Exodus chapter 27. And I want to also read this in the ERV, which is an easy to read version. And I like this sometimes because it's easy to read. But more than anything, there are a lot of little foreign words that are used in some of the other translations. This one really kind of helps this chapter flow. It's not a long chapter. Let's get into it. So before I go any further, I want to invite you to visit the blog, please. Just go down to the notes section of this video, click the link of the blog. There's stuff on there that is deeper type teaching. You'll want to just scroll through, see what all's there, find out kind of the kind of material that I'm posting. And there's some freebies on there as well. Some books that are of biblical significance. Let's just put it that way. Some that you may never have read through. Definitely worth a download. Check out the blog. All right, let's start. Exodus chapter 27, verse 1. God speaking. Moses is still on top of the mountain, by the way. So he's still got his iPad out. He's still writing these details down. All right, use acacia wood and build an altar. Your version may say shittim wood. A lot of these types of materials, we don't really have a modern equivalent, so we make something up. We assume that it's probably acacia. We know what an acacia tree looks like. So we substitute words every now and then for the sake of understanding. That's probably what's going on. Use acacia wood and build an altar. The altar should be square. It must be 5 cubits long, 5 cubits wide, 3 cubits high. Interesting numerology. Make a horn for each of the 4 corners of the altar. Join each horn to its corner so that everything is in one piece. Then cover the altar with bronze. So the altar is bronze. Think judgment. Okay? This is where things, sacrifices are judged. Altars. Use bronze to make all the tools and dishes that will be used on the altar. Make pots, shovels, bowls, forks, and pans. These will be used for cleaning ashes from the altar. Make a grating for the altar. This grating will be shaped like a net, and make a bronze ring at each of the 4 corners of the grating. Put the grating under the ledge at the bottom of the altar. The grating will go halfway up into the altar from below. Okay, so far this sounds like how we would design a barbecue grill. You put a grating underneath to catch perhaps ashes, embers, that type of thing. I'll try to put a picture here as well. Okay, verse 6. Use acacia wood to make poles for the altar and cover them with bronze. Put the poles through the rings on both sides of the altar. Use these poles for carrying the altar. Okay, that's clear enough. Make the altar like an empty box with the sides made from boards. Make the altar just as I showed you on the mountain. Then make a courtyard for the holy tent. The south side should have a wall of curtains 100 cubits long. These curtains must be made from fine linen. Use 20 posts and 20 bronze bases under the posts. The hooks for the posts and the curtain rods should be made from silver. This is kind of why I like the easy to read version better for the description of the furniture. It reads more like something we would find at Lowe's, okay, or Home Depot. All right, verse 12 or verse 11. The north side must also have a wall of curtains 100 cubits long. 100 cubits. The Greek mind asks, how long is 100 cubits? Approximately 150 feet. Okay, a cubit is 1.5 feet. On a man's arm, about 1.5 feet. 150 feet. So not a small courtyard. It must have 20 posts and 20 bronze bases. The hooks for the posts and the curtain rods must be made from silver. On the west side of the courtyard, there must be a wall of curtains 50 cubits long, 75 feet. There must be 10 posts and 10 bases. The east side of the courtyard must also be 50 cubits long. Verse 14. Here, at the entrance to the courtyard, one side must have curtains 15 cubits long. There must be 3 posts and 3 bases on this side. The other side of the entrance must also have curtains 15 cubits long. There must be 3 posts and 3 bases on that side. Make a curtain 20 cubits long to cover the entrance to the courtyard. Make that curtain from fine linen and blue and purple and red yarn. Again, purple fine linens we associate with the priesthood moving forward. Weave designs into that curtain. There must be 4 posts and 4 bases for that curtain. All the posts around the courtyard must be joined with silver curtain rods. The hooks on the posts must be made from silver, and the bases for the posts must be bronze. Again, Moses taking down all these details in some way. Just amazing to think about. Okay, the courtyard should be 100 cubits long and 50 cubits wide. The wall of curtains around the courtyard should be 5 cubits high. So think 7.5 feet. The curtains must be made from fine linen. The bases under the posts must be bronze. All the tools, tent pegs, and other things used in the holy tent must be made from bronze. And all the pegs for the curtains around the courtyard must be made from bronze. This is one of the instances where bronze not only stands for judgment, but also stands for strength, because bronze during this time was one of the stronger metals that they had to make anything out of, certainly stronger than silver and gold, okay? And iron wasn't something they could do easily in the desert, nor probably did they have a lot of things gifted to them from Egypt in the form of iron. Okay. Verse 20, command the Israelites to bring their best olive oil for the lamp that must be lit each evening. I find this slightly out of place, right? This seems like it should go in a different chapter, perhaps in a section talking about procedures or how to run the daily business. He's inserting it here at the end of the description of how to create the courtyard. Command the Israelites, bring their best olive oil. You know, it's the source. The oil is the source. I liken it to whatever is driving the sun, because the lamp and the sun fill the same role in the garden. The sun lights the garden. The lamp lights this recreation of the garden. So there is some connection with the source. Bring only the best, because that represents my essence that lights the world. Okay. This lamp is in the first room of the tent, of the meeting tent, the tent of meeting, outside the curtain for the room where the agreement is, the covenant. Aaron and his sons will make sure this lamp is burning before the Lord every day, from evening until morning. The Israelites and their descendants must obey this law forever. So this lamp stays burning from evening till morning, meaning when everything else is dark. It's the priest's job to create and to save, maybe not create in this sense, but to keep the fire burning. When everything else is dark, it's the priest's job to keep the fire burning. That will preach any Sunday, any church right now. So yes, a really short chapter, and maybe thankfully so, because there can be too many details to deal with sometimes. Can you imagine reading a whole bunch of those chapters at once? Kind of makes you go brain dead. Reminds me of Leviticus a bit. Leviticus is as dry as the desert it takes place in, but at least there's some juicy details in that. We get to learn a little bit about the metals. We get to learn that still, these details are of vital importance. God starts every sentence with, this must be the way it's done. This must happen this way. So there are meanings here. Maybe the most fascinating thing is that there are meanings here that we are yet to really discover. Beyond the numerology, perhaps even. There are meanings that are important to God that he didn't tell us about. He didn't say, here's why this is important. Or you can just make this an arbitrary number. No, this must be this way. And I'm not telling you why. Fascinating. What do you think? What do you think might be his reasoning for the exactitude of all of this? If you have good ideas, maybe you have much more educated ideas than I have. Please share. Would love to see that. Now, also before you go, please remember, check out my sponsor, solwaycoffee.com, SOLWAY coffee.com. Get yourself some K-Cups for your Sunday school or your Bible study. That would help a kingdom cause tremendously. Love you guys. Won't be late on the next video. I hope you have a blessed week. Peace.